seems fair to me.
Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9PBS.
Thank you so much for joining us for this edition of Donnybrook, the first for September. In the words of Earth, Wind, and Fire, Badia. Let's meet the panelists who are seated around the table, starting with Wendy Wiese from KTRS, Mr. Bill McClellan from the Post-Dispatch, Ray Hartmann from the Riverfront Times, rawstory.com, and KTRS, and from the St. Louis American, Mr. Alvin Reid. Before we get to our first topic, a little program note. Halfway through this program, we call it Next Up. We're going to talk to Howard Smith and Donna Smith, two individuals who are pioneering a new way to create affordable housing. Their work is getting a lot of national attention. Recently, a big story in the Washington Post. That's halfway through. Hope you don't miss that one. Wendy, I want to ask you about a real flip-flop. This past week, since we were on the air last time, the Republican candidate for county executive in St. Louis County, Catherine Pinner, who surprisingly beat Shamid Dogan in the primary. She's supposed to take on Sam Page in the finals in November. She, on Friday, maybe after watching Donnybrook, I don't know, decided to pull out of the race. And then earlier this week, she announced that she's back in, that she owes it to the primary voters. Can you make any sense of what's going on here?
I cannot. I absolutely cannot. I think it was interesting that Mark Harder was quoted in an article in the paper as saying that we don't need this kind of drama. I would second that emotion. I think that this is way too much drama. I think it is a complete turnoff when you have someone who is not able to articulate the reasons why she believes she would be a good, an effective county executive. As much as I think the Republican Party wants you to believe that the Republicans will coalesce behind her, I just don't see that happening. Well, and I think it's going to, no, I think it's going to hurt. I think it's going to hurt Republicans.
What I found amusing or frightening, whatever, was Tim Fitch, who I think was correct when he said, oh, you know, the Republicans will still vote for Ms. Pinner and the Democrats will still vote for Page. And I thought, will the Republicans really line up behind Ms. Pinner, who's talked about MASH being satanic? Have they gone that far off the rails, Wendy, that...
I don't speak for anybody officially,
right.
But it's hard for me to believe that they will. I still think that this is another fortuitous thing in the, I mean, a fortuitous event, incredible coinky-dinky in the political career of one Dr. Sam Page. I'm sorry. This something is not right here, in my opinion.
I don't know about that. You might be right, but I disagree that we don't need the drama. I mean, well, I think it's, I mean, this race...
We need the drama.
That's what I'm saying. We need this drama. I actually had Tim on Friday night because he called in, and, you know, we don't usually do new stuff, and that was, you know, the day it was happening, and he didn't say anything like that to me. He did, I think, smartly point out that I'll believe that she's actually withdrawn, because the papers all had it, you know, she's leaving, you know, everybody, the coverage was she's leaving the ticket. And Tim says, yeah, I'll believe it when she actually does it. And that was right, but I thought it was actually going to be a really, I'm sure the person who probably didn't need the drama was Page. I mean, the idea that he went from having because he for a minute there, he could have had a candidate.
Shamid Dogan was a viable candidate.
No, but I'm saying he could have had, depending on what the party did, he could have had a candidate. He didn't. Look, he's going to be, there's no drama left. He's going to be elected, and not many people are going to vote for him.
I don't think it's really drama. I think it's just kind of some silliness. I also think that somebody's telling her what to do, and it could be Tim Fitch and the gang just saying, like, it's worse off if you drop out than if you at least are on, you know, just basically running for the office.
What about isn't there a penalty involved in terms of if she doesn't pull out by a certain time, or if she, I thought there was some kind of a.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know how many Republicans.
But Shamed Dogan isn't talking, and I think he's not talking because he still has a career, and somebody is telling him not to talk or advising him.
No, I mean
not
that's
to
smart.
talk.
That's smart.
That's smart.
I agree.
I think that what can you say when the woman beat him so handily? What was it, 20 points, something like that?
It was double digits.
And you know, she says, as you point out, that a mask is connected to satanic ritual. This is
chips.
I mean,
and the vaccines.
if she gets surgery and the surgeon has a mask, does she think that there's some sort of?
But
it makes no sense.
All right, but Shaman has just said, he hasn't said she's a nut. He hasn't said this was about race. This was about my name. And the reason he hasn't said that is because he has a career in Republican.
That's exactly right.
Okay. Alvin, I want to ask you about the loop trolley. The much embattled loop trolley got $1.26 million federal dollars by the East-West Council of Governments, East-West Gateway Council of Governments today. This is the regional authority. And as you know, the trolley was not that popular to begin with. It's not going to be that popular in its new form. It's only going to be open Thursdays through Sundays from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m., and it'll end on October 30th. So do you think that if these were local dollars that had to be spent and not federal dollars, these local guys would have voted for it?
Well, I still think that there's a threat of we may not get something in the future that actually we really, really need. So let's just keep it running, and not every day and not throughout the entire year, and just take this money and keep it running the rails for a while. And I would have voted for it. I would have voted yay. So I can't be mad at them for voting.
I'm like you. I believe Talby Roach when he says this will hurt us. And I believe Mayor Jones and County Executive Sam Page all said the same thing. This will hurt us with federal dollars later. And that is, maybe I'm a sucker. Maybe I believe anything, but that's enough of a threat to me, because we're going to want those federal dollars down the road.
I think it's the goofiest threat I've ever heard of.
Really?
I mean, the idea that the federal government is going to say that if you don't keep putting money into a losing project, we're going to lose faith in you. I mean, at a certain time, you have to take your cards and say, I'm throwing these in. This is not a winning hand.
I disagree with my fellow founder. I think that at a minimum, they would claw back the money they put in, which would be $37 million now, or whatever it is, and that wouldn't be painless. And you know, I was in the loop last week and saw the thing running, and it's, you know, it didn't look like it wasn't empty. It was about half full. 2 people. Yeah, no, I mean, it wasn't. I didn't see like people falling out of it, but it was, you know, and now to your point originally to Alvin, if it were local dollars, absolutely not. But I think that I wouldn't be for it. But, you know, I think one of the things we can kind of do is take a deep breath. I will say this. Whatever one wants to say about
$37 million,
that's
right?
what they could call back.
Right.
In addition,
See,
that's not just a threat.
I don't think they will.
Oh,
I mean,
no, I think they would.
I think it's an empty threat.
Where I think the empty threat might be is, are they going to penalize us in the future? That's a debatable question. I don't think it's debatable that they'd come for the money.
Here's the thing,
and
right?
I think they should.
They
actually.
might come from the money, but the city has the money right now. It's
No,
got
no,
money
not for
from
that.
Stan Kroenke. It has $500 million
has
from
the
the feds.
relief.
It's not like the city doesn't have the money. And it just, Bill's point is such a good one. You have a losing operation, so you're throwing more federal dollars. You know, people from across the country are paying for this. More good money after bad. I mean, maybe we thought originally it could be a good idea, but it's not. You even though you saw it last Sunday, you don't think it's going to be a thriving
You know what?
enterprise.
I don't think it's really helpful for people like us to just keep pounding on it. I mean, let's see what happens.
Well, why
with
not call it?
It's because it's happening.
That's
It's
a
real.
lot of
We've
money.
seen what's happening
No, but-
for several years.
Okay, I get it, but Bi-State just started running it, and it looks like it's
gotta
running
t-
fine.
can I
Just
jump in
why
here
don't
just
you
quickly?
just let's see what happens?
It's
It's a done
fine.
deal.
I got
whether
to
we
tell you
want
something
it or
about
not.
Bi-State. I
Bi-State.
was at the platform on Forsyth for Metrolink today at 7:12, right? And I was there until 7:26. This is, you know, right across from Woodard's BP or whatever that is, near Washoe, right? There wasn't one person on the platform on either side from 7:12 to 7:26. This was rush hour on a Thursday.
What were you doing there?
You know, I wanted to see if anyone was riding Metrolink.
He was prepping for the show.
Exactly. All right, let's move on.
Show prep.
That's perhaps a topic for another day, how popular Metrolink is these days. Ray, I want to ask you about another feud between the mayor of St. Louis, Tashara Jones, and Attorney General and U.S. Senate candidate Eric Schmidt. They're going back and forth on Twitter with insults and, you know, as they've been doing on various topics for about a year right now. And this time over the mayor's proposed lawsuit against Kia and Hyundai because of all the stolen vehicles in the city of St. Louis. I think that the feud kind of has got old a long time ago. And these are leaders who should be acting like leaders. And at some point, if Mr. Schmidt becomes U.S. Senator, and as you know, he's got a good chance of becoming that, they're going to have to work together.
No, they're not. Have you not followed our politics lately? And I mean, I wish that in a perfect world they'd have to work together. And they actually would work together quietly. Their staffs would just, there's a lot more cooperation than you'd know of quietly, whether it's Representative Bush working with, you know, Republicans, et cetera. It happens. But I would say this, that this is where our politics live today, and they both benefit from it. I happen to be on Tashara Jones' side because she's right. When she's arguing with Eric Schmidt, she's right maybe 100% of the time, but they both benefit from it. They're both playing to their own galleries, their own bases. I wouldn't really call it a feud. I'd call it performance art. And I don't think anybody should really take it overly seriously.
This is a classic example of social media's dominance at this moment over traditional media of our era. That this would have been in a story from Bill McClellan, above the fold, front page headline, with you know, Eric Schmidt says this about Tashara Jones, Mayor Jones says this about the candidate for the Senate. This is where they dwell today, and I again agree with Ray, which scares me.
Well, let me disagree with Ray then. At least in the like, I'm obviously not a social media person, but what I've read about this feud that Tashara Jones is blaming Hyundai for the problems of car theft and wants Eric Schmidt to sue Hyundai. And to me, that's about the most ludicrous thing in the world. I mean, you have the mayor saying we have enough police, but a real crime problem here is Hyundais are too easily stolen, and we should sue Hyundai. I mean, that's as goofy as when Eric Schmidt sued China.
Well, wait. That lawsuit, excuse me, other states have filed that lawsuit. We're not the first, okay? This has happened before. When I had a Honda Accord LXI, the Hondas were getting stolen everywhere, and then we lived on the East Coast, and Virginia wanted to do something about it. And other states and other cities have done this before. So this isn't like, let's please not look at Tashara Jones once again and say, like, that's craziness. This has actually been a suit that's filed. They're easy to steal. Believe it or not, I know someone who had their car stolen on Wednesday. And it
was it a Hyundai?
Hyundai, right?
Yeah.
In the city.
Okay. But who's to blame for that?
I mean,
the thief is to blame.
No, but if a car is easily stolen.
I just think we're seeing a pattern here. Schnucks is being blamed for the crime on South Grand. Scooters are being blamed for the crime in downtown. Police are being blamed for car chases. And now Hyundai's being blamed, for car thefts. When are we going to start blaming the criminals?
No, wait
a minute.
That was
That's actually not Tashara Jones continues to get misrepresented on this part. She has, for example, a lot of people try to associate with her with defund the police, which she has never, words she's never uttered.
True.
Going back all the way, she has said, you've got to have a multi-pronged approach. You've got to do all, I forget her exact words, but her position is you've got to do a lot of things at once. And to say that she's blaming all the crime on, respectfully, on Kia, whatever, she's not. She's saying that's one thing we should be doing. And I don't think, she is, it's a tough job, obviously, to take on crime. One of the things you didn't mention is and obviously by blames the criminals, but you also got to blame.
But that's not obvious.
But you've got to try to address the causes of crime without being ridiculed
that's
about social.
No,
it's part of the argument.
No, Ray, we're talking about suing the auto manufacturer.
And that's one thing
because
you can
people
do.
are stealing their
It's
cars.
one thing
I
you
think
can
that's
do.
wrong.
Another thing
Ray,
you can do is address the causes of crime without
Ray,
acting like it's changing the subject.
Should the mayor sue herself when the locks on the jail don't work?
Oh.
Yeah, really.
I mean, it's just as crazy as the Kia
No, it
Hyundai
isn't.
thing.
This is a car with a propensity, and as Alvin points out, we're not the only ones. It's a car with a propensity that the argument, the lawsuit argument, I don't know if it's
But the
successful,
amazing-
is that their inability or their unwillingness to address this is causing cities harm.
But you understand the optics, right? You've got Kim Gardner. She's reluctant to prosecute people. I'm saying that is the perception. And then I thought that was a very effective slam right there in terms of the locks on the jail doors. That's exactly where we are.
All right, going back to compare the four things that you did, that was gross generalization there, because the people who are bums and are aggressive bums down by the Schnooks aren't necessarily criminals. And then also, should a city be able to sue gun manufacturers? Because I think they should be able to do that. And I think it's kind of in the same.
Okay, all right.
I think it is.
Okay, let's move on to Wendy and a new song. It's kind of a folk song from the 1970s that was written for Trudy Bush Valentine, who, of course, is in the U.S. Senate race against Eric Schmidt. She's the Democratic nominee. And let's play Pump It or Dump It. Did you like it? It's kind of a folksy acoustic guitar song.
It's very up with people. It sort of like takes us back to the 70s. It almost like just even the audio quality sounds like it was recorded in a bathroom. I mean, you know, the sound is kind of bouncing around, but I think that she is crazy like a fox. I think she's in it to win it. It is the kind of thing that appeals to people who are trying to be positive. She is smiling, as I said before. She is the first candidate that, you know, I think has got a face that could switch voters' minds. I think she could change voters' minds just by having a very pleasant countenance. And the song plays right into that, and I think she's pretty darn smart. Or whoever's running her campaign is
I agree,
smart.
and like I say, like on election night, I heard this, like, people like her.
Yep.
And does that swing an election? I don't know. But I'll tell you what, play on that.
Right. When you're up against somebody who's doing, you know, who has a rocket launcher to take out people, flamethrower.
Okay.
I mean, that's that's going to be effective.
I hope you guys are right. I really wish you were, but I keep thinking this is Missouri. I mean, Claire McCaskill lost to Josh Hawley.
But I'm not arguing with you at that point.
I
I'm
mean,
just.
This is Trumplandia, and I'm not. I wish that being nice and being a nurse could carry the day, but I kind of don't think so.
Agree with Bill. Let me put it this way: it's empirical that she's got an uphill fight because of the metrics, because of the way Missouri is structured. You're winning me over a little in the sense that, and I've always said I'd vote for her, but I think that her strategy, which appears to be to keep things very simple, not to get drawn into the issue of the day, not to talk about the next, you know, not to talk about Trump, not to talk about, you know, various things, the school debt thing, you know, the school loans, just to keep focused. I will say this on her behalf, she doesn't duck tough issues. She's willing to talk about gun control. She's very pro-choice, very consistent, but she keeps it really simple. And I have underestimated the one hope she's got, and I kind of am skeptical it's going to work, is that she can kind of be so nice that Eric Schmidt's new persona of being mean-spirited and nasty to people on the other side might boomerang on him.
Well, it's possible.
We'll see.
I will say, I think she's taken the high road in the campaign.
She has,
I don't
and
hear her.
she's getting more comfortable.
She's given Eric Schmidt nothing to hit.
Don't you find a little bit hokey when she's sitting on a bale of hay
Not at
in this
all.
video?
Not at all.
I mean, that's like when John Ashcroft used to wear a flannel shirt during the campaign. Come on.
Where have you been?
Did you ever see John
office?
Did John Ashcroft ever lose an election?
Doesn't mean it's not hokey.
It doesn't mean, but hokey. I will say I hadn't seen the ad till tonight, and I will say, and I've seen a few ads in the day. It was a really effective ad. Now, whether it's going to mean anything,
in
as
real
I say,
life,
it's uphill.
In real life, I bet you Trudy Bush Valentine has sat on more bales of hay than I have because she lived at Grants Farm.
All right,
well,
this
is authentic.
Right.
This is authentic.
I'm saying they do have furniture there. Okay. Now,
that's a good one.
Not in the barn.
Let me ask you, Ray, about Kim Gardner. I think we've already talked about Kim Gardner on this show. She was fined by the Supreme Court of the state of Missouri $750 for her violations. In my opinion, which I've expressed before, she denied Eric Greitens, whatever you think of him, and I know it's not too high in your estimation, his due process, which he was entitled to when he was being prosecuted. I mean, there was even one case where they came back from lunch, and the lawyers representing Mr. Donald Tisby, the special investigator for the circuit attorney, said to Mr. Tisby, "Did you speak to the circuit attorney during lunch?" He said no. Well, according to phone records, they spoke for 34 minutes.
We're going to relitigate that now?
Well, I'm just saying.
I mean, look at the scoreboard. It's over. And the bottom line is, at the end of the day, for all the talk I've heard all on this show and everywhere else, oh, they're going to take our law lives, they're going to get this, they're going to get that. The fact of the matter is Kim Gardner's still standing. She's the elected circuit attorney of Missouri, of St. Louis, and the Supreme Court of Missouri, which could have done anything if you had all these great facts. The idea that somehow this was, when you look at how the entire legal establishment, and I mean the entire legal establishment, came down on her and she prevailed, why not just say congratulations, good game, and move on to something else?
Well, prevailed would mean that you got no fine at all. I mean, that's like you go into court and you're in trouble and you're facing a big fine, and they said, "Oh, we're only going to fine you $750." I said, that's not vindication. That's like, we're only going to fine you $750. Could have done more, but this is what we're going to do. Look, I think the fix was in that they really did not want to throw this elected legal official, out of office or something like that. And I think that's what happened. I think that was conservative jurists and liberal ones in that, no, you're one of us, and it always helps to be one of us.
No, I don't think it's one of us, Alvin. I think it's just, now the principle may be actually, you're maybe very right, that Supreme Court justices should not be overturning the will of the voters. And that principle, I think, is there because it's the right principle. She did nothing in this case, this one little case, and it really wasn't.
No, it wasn't a little case.
Wait,
if I might interrupt you,
yes,
it was the governor of the state on trial.
It was dropped. It was dropped. Yeah. Okay, the point is, this was kept alive by Eric Greitens' checkbook. There was no huge crime here.
If I remember, her investigator, Mr. Tisby, pleaded guilty to perjury. I mean, that's not nothing.
But it's also not a cause to remove an elected prosecutor.
No, you have to be honest. If this was Bob McCullough, and there was a suspect, a minority suspect on trial, and he did to that person what Gardner did to Greitens,
no way he
would be freaked out.
No way he loses his law license.
Well, nobody's talking about that. What I'm saying
that's what the whole process was.
Wait a minute.
That was the whole process.
Why was she fined $750? Because she did nothing wrong?
She had a technical violation. There's no question about it.
Wait a minute. We went from she didn't do anything wrong to a technical violation.
I never said she did anything wrong. I said she didn't. She obviously, that case was mishandled. All right, I'm sorry.
Okay.
It was mishandled.
In the interest of time, let's move on.
I said she prevailed.
Bill McClellan, I want to ask you about a couple of things, but one is in your state of Illinois, the land of Lincoln that you grew up in. It's now being reported that the pension liability has gone from $124 billion to $140 billion. It's unfunded, and it has, well, right now, the pensions are only 40% funded. 40% funded in this state. Do you think that the pensioners should be taking haircuts?
I'm afraid they're going to have to. And one of the big problems is what politician of either party is going to stand up and go after essentially teachers and cops and other public employees. I mean, nobody's going to have the courage to do it. But, when the coal miners, and we saw that here in St. Louis, when their companies went bankrupt, the pensioners, they said, sorry, we can't cover the pensions anymore. And really that's going to have to happen in Illinois. This idea of, you know, we're going to kick this can down the road again. Eventually, that's not going to work.
So let me get this right. You want to defund the police, right? No.
But you're going to have to change.
The retired police.
You're going to have to change the Constitution, and nobody has the stomach for that.
No. I mean, so I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be a financial disaster eventually, and no one's going to do what they have to do.
While I have you on the hot seat there, I want to ask you to say a word or two about Dick Ford. 40 years in broadcast journalism here in St. Louis. We lost him this week. Boy, of course, Hall of Famer, and he certainly exemplified class while he was at the news desk, did he not?
Oh, I thought so. I mean, he was a real gentleman, and he's one of the few people I've ever met who actually had like a tap in his home. And I was only there a couple times, but he said, "You want a beer?" I said, "Sure." And he walked over, and it was like a bar. You know, pulled a little thing, and there was beer. And I'm sure it's just a keg, but it impressed me. And I thought he was a very nice man.
And what impressed me about him, you can judge somebody about how they are to somebody who just basically a face on the off the street. And I met him in the late 70s when I was just pretty much that, and I pretty much am now. But he's special now. But he was very nice to everyone.
Yes,
and
he was.
He really was a nice man.
Great,
and our thoughts with
man.
the Ford family. Hey, let's take a look at the mailbag and see what viewers had to say about last week's show. Devin Wymore wrote, "Longtime fan, but in the last few episodes, I must say, I do not appreciate the tag team tactics made against Ray by Charlie and Wendy." Thank you, Devin, for sharing your opinion. Dave Carr, "Once again, I've made a promise to myself that the first time more than 2 or 3 people talk at the same time, the show gets turned off." Mr. Carr, thank you. Stephanie James writes, "Stop talking over each other. We're changing channels." My fault, Stephanie. I appreciate the feedback. You can write to Donnybrook, care of 9 PBS, 3655 Olive Street, St. Louis, Missouri, 63108. How about those emails, Donnybrook@9pbs.org, and those tweets, hashtag DonnybrookSTL. We also would like you to call the 9 line, 314-512-9094. And you can follow us on your favorite podcast source, Apple, Spotify, Google Play, and TuneIn. That concludes the first half, but don't go away because we're going to talk to Howard Smith and Donna Smith about their innovative, maybe brilliant plan to build affordable housing across this country. That's next.
Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9 PBS.